guys, DSP Fishing another video. In this video I'm going to be showing you how you can be successful this trout season and better your game, and as well as a few tips and tricks along the way. So I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. The little red button in the corner, absolutely free. Now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to kick off the new intro video. Here we go. Alright guys, the first tip I'm going to give you is actually here you can do here at home without even hitting the water. First one is buying your fishing license. It is very easy to buy your fishing license nowadays, especially if you have already bought one before. You just go into the Fish and Boat Commission website and you search purchase fishing license, and you can put in your CID number or social security number and fill out your fishing license and print it off, and you're ready to fish. Then once you you've purchased your fishing license, you want to know where to fish. A good place to look to where to fish is it's still on the Fish and Boat Commission website, and look up the stocking schedules. So we give exact longitude and latitudes of where you want to fish. So all you have to do is take that, put that into Google Earth, and you can look at your spot before you actually are starting fishing. Alright guys, now that you've purchased your fishing license and found out where you're going to fish, I'm going to show you the gear that you need to buy and what kind of lures you're going to want to use. So stay tuned. The first key purchase you are going to want to make is a rod and reel combo. There are many types of rods and reels on the market, and each have their specific applications. For a beginner, I would suggest a simple spinning rod combo. Ultralight spinning rod setups work best for trout, but you can use a medium light or even a medium, and that will do just fine. The next key purchase that is often overlooked is line selection. For trout fishing, line plays a major role in your success. As the season progresses and the trout become more weary, they become extremely line shy, especially in clear water. The two main lines people use for trout are monofilament and fluorocarbon. I tend to stray away from monofilament and use fluorocarbon instead, and here's why. The slow sinking action of the fluorocarbon allows for a more natural presentation for your bait that you are using. Although there are many brands of line out there, I highly recommend this Berkeley Vanish fluorocarbon, anywhere from 4 to 10 pound test. Now that you've purchased the right line, the next step is to look at some baits that are proven to catch trout. One of the most key aspects of trout fishing success is bait selection. There are two main categories of baits that I consider: active baits and baits. I consider active baits as baits that the fishermen have to give action to the bait in order to entice a bite. These baits include spinners, streamers, small jerk baits, jigs, or even spoons. The other category, passive baits, are baits that drift naturally along the bottom in moving water or are static in still water. These baits include power bait, eggs, live bait, nymphs, or corn. All these baits will catch trout. However, there are a few baits that I would best recommend for new anglers. The most simple and easy bait for a beginner to learn is an inline spinner. Inline spinners have caught trout for decades, as well as a myriad of other game fish. For an inline spinner, you simply cast across the stream and retrieve the bait back in a moderate manner. Then once the bait has reached the end of the retrieve, you simply recast. You want to retrieve the spinner fast enough for the blades to spin, but not too fast that the trout won't be able to catch it. An inline spinner imitates a small bait fish such as a dace or creek chub, in which the trout hunts it down and then eats it. Trout are sight feeders, but much like any other fish, they have a lateral line on their backs that can sense vibrations in the water. Therefore, an inline spinner that is realistic but also gives off a fair amount of vibration works best. My top choices of spinners include Blue Fox or Panther Martin. I personally like to use the gold color, but there are other colors that work under certain conditions. The size of the spinner varies based upon the size of the trout you want to target. As a general rule, the smaller spinners target primarily smaller trout, and the larger spinners target larger trout. My last word of advice for spinners is to cast at different areas after each cast. Spinners search out aggressive trout, therefore the trout will hit your bait in the first few casts, or they won't hit them at all. My next bait recommendation can be applied to all passive baits that were mentioned. However, for beginner, I would suggest using power bait. Power bait is simple to use and the trout typically set themselves. For rigging power bait, first tie on your treble hook to your line. Now pinch 1 to 2 split shots about 6 to 12 inches above your hook. Next, take a pinch of the power bait and thread it onto the hook. When this bait is in the water, the power bait floats directly in the trout's line of sight, while the split shot is anchoring it to the bottom. Power bait is extremely effective on stock trout. This is because the life cycle of a stock trout starts in the hatchery. The trout are fed pellets until they are full size. Then they are loaded into stocking trucks and dumped into your local waterway for you to catch. Once the trout are stocked, they will then feed on the naturally occurring aquatic insects and other forms of food until the opening day of trout season. Then once opening day arrives, fishermen cast in their power bait for the trout. The trout sees the power bait and thinks that it's the pellets that they were fed for their entire lives. My last recommended bait selection pertains to people who want to start fly fishing. And that bait would be a woolly bugger. A woolly bugger is a fly that imitates numerous species of aquatic organisms. They can imitate baitfish, crayfish, leeches, insects, or even larvae. They work for the same reasons that spinners work on spinning gear. Now that you've purchased your license, rod, reel, line, and the recommended baits, and you found out where to fish, there are a few additional purchases that can really improve your odds on opening day. The first being hemostats or pliers to remove hooks from the fish's mouth. Next, a stringer to hold the fish that you plan to keep. A vest to hold the baits, lures, or whatever else you're going to need while you're fishing. Next, a net for landing the fish. And last, waders for getting closer to the trout, being able to cast easier and get a better presentation when you're drifting down the stream. With these purchases, you are ready to start fishing. When you're choosing your fishing spot, be mindful of where a trout might be lurking. In a typical trout stream, trout will be behind and in front of current breaks such as rocks, trees, branches, and they will also feed in the current right in the center of the stream. There are also typically large concentrations of trouts in back eddies or even under bridges. In waters such as lakes or ponds, there's little structure for them to hide. Therefore, the structure that is there is extremely important. This could be docks, submergent branches, deep water drop-offs, man-made fountains, or even weed edges if the temperature is warm enough. All these target areas will likely hold trout, so it is best to cast all around the target area and then move to another spot if you don't pick up a trout. My final word of advice when fishing for trout is it's best to approach downstream because the trout will face upstream. So if you approach from behind them, they're less likely to see you. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned quite a bit. I hope you're successful this trout fishing season. Until next time, slow and obey my friends. I'll see you on the flip side.